Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. This is Simon with AvaTrade. Welcome back to our weekly webinar. And of course, the special welcome to the new people. I hope this will be useful for you and you'll take home some information and maybe some knowledge, maybe some practical things that will help you in your trading. So for new people, of course, the title, your weekly trading plan, says it all. And just in 2 words, what we do here, we just go through some fundamentals, some technicals, a big picture, what's happening in the world, including economical news, as economic calendar, other things. And we try to create a structure which helps to be more organized with our trading, less impulsive, less reactive, and hopefully more profitable. Few things about myself. My name is Simon Friedman. I'm a senior account manager with AvaTrade. My overall experience is more than 22 years. I started as a professional licensed trader. I worked in a few proprietary firms back in New York City. And after that, I stopped because that was mostly day trading for 11 years, a lot of stress. And I went to trade in a different way, and I started to mentor and educate other traders, something that I love to do, something that helped me in the beginning of my trading career. Someone really put an effort and helped me with my trading development. And currently, I'm an account manager, as I said, with AvaTrade. The agenda of the webinar is usually the same agenda. We'll go through indices, stocks, commodities, and Forex. And these are the channels that I encourage you to use to be in touch with us. You have Telegram, Twitter, and my favorite, YouTube. A lot of you that are not able to see live webinars, you're watching them on YouTube. It's a great source, and I really highly recommend to sign up for the channel of AvaTrade and click on that bell so you'll be notified when new things are coming, and they're coming on a daily basis. And it's a great source. And I'm not just saying it, I'm sure you like it as well. Risk warning. You can find the full document disclosure in avatrade.com. And in 2 words, everything we do here, it's just purely educational. We're not suggesting any trades. And of course, you need to use your own judgment. Now, as you know by now, I like to take some nice screenshots if I find them. So this is a screenshot of the website called MarketWatch. And I mean, it's pretty loud here, right? It says the 3 trillion loss, big tax, horrible year is getting worse. And you have these big giants. I used to be FANG group, right? Facebook, Amazon, Apple, and others. So did it lose 3 trillion since the peak or the beginning of this year? And it says right here, so you can read, Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, Meta, and Microsoft are set to shed combined 255 billion in market cap this week. So all of them, especially the biggest disaster was Facebook, and I spoke about it a while ago, if you remember, that Facebook, it looks like nobody wants it. It just kept on falling with disappointing news. I think it lost more than 60% of its value. Amazon, Apple, Microsoft disappointed as well. Apple actually reported better than expected, and will be taking a look. And actually, that's what pushed the stocks, I think, on Friday, especially Dow Jones, as Apple is a member of a Dow Jones 30 group. So I just want you to see this. Before we go into economic calendar, I just want to share with you a big picture, as we said, a few major things happening in the world. As I unfortunately keep on saying, The war is still there. I think it's getting intense. I think there were some actions by Ukrainian in Crimea, and some bombing of the Russian military there in response to things that are not stopping. The Russians are keep on bombing civilians and the cities and so on. So it looks like in response to that, Russians are that they just announced that they're suspending the grain deal. If you remember, we spoke a while ago when it was a deal brokered by UN and Turkish President Erdogan. So they opened the export of Ukrainian wheat, corn, and other things. And now it looks like, because of the bombing and all things that's happening, Russia suspended the deal. So when I saw that announcement, the first thing comes to my mind, will we see the move to the upside on wheat and corn? And I have it for later when we look at the charts. Just keep that in mind. Now, another big thing is China. We'll be taking a look at the chart in a moment as well. The Chinese index is tanking. And I just found these numbers on the internet that says that Chinese stocks lost about 1.5 trillion this year, or in the past 2 years, says over the past 2 years. And it says that the damage may not be over. And as you know, the Chinese president is just started his third term, and they got rid of leadership that was kind of not agreeing with the ideas of the president. So it is really, again, I'm not big in politics, but it looks like it's all communist oriented, and analysts are expecting the stocks continue falling, and because that's not focus. The focus is ideology, not to bring the markets up, and that's what the main analysts are saying. So China is crashing economically, and with all the zero COVID policy, it doesn't help either. And the world indices, of course, not in the best shape. This week is a crucial week. It's another major or massive interest rate hike by Feds. It looks like it's priced in 0.75, so it brings the interest rate to 4%. And a lot of economists are really having a hard time agreeing. Some say that the peak, or some call it the terminal rate, will get to 4.5/4.75%. And there's a group of other economists saying that it's going to go above 5%, which is aggressive, which is also not so great for the economy and the stock market, of course. But just to remind everyone, the Feds, the only focus they have, the only purpose they have with all the actions, including the interest rate hikes, is to bring the inflation lower. And as of now, they're really they're not successful in that, and they were hoping to stop that interest rate at around 3.75, top 4%, but it looks like they're going to have to do. So again, on Wednesday, there is an announcement. You know what? Let's just move now to the calendar, so we'll be seeing it visually as well. So we have interest rate decision on Wednesday, and the time is GMT. And 30 minutes later, even the most important thing, that's what's going to be next. Okay, because here we know it's most likely it's going to be 0.75. Again, there's always space for surprises, but the press conference is actually Powell's going to have a hard time. It's a big mission he's got there to say things the way he needs to say it, and at the same time to keep everybody calm. So that's on Wednesday. Now let's go back. On Monday, we have retail sales from Australia, manufacturing PMI from China, retail sales Germany, GDP from European Union, and inflation numbers European Union. Governor of Bank of Australia speaking on Monday. Tuesday, Australia interest rate decision, manufacturing PMI from US, unemployment data from New Zealand. And this one is also interesting. Bank of Japan monetary policy meeting minutes. They're going to be talking or announcing, what they further monetary policy. And as you know, they haven't done anything with interest rates. They say it's okay, even though they're really suffering there with the yen. We'll be looking at the chart in a moment. They did another intervention, as you know. We'll take a look at it in a moment. So Wednesday we said it's all about the Feds and ADP numbers. That kind of gives us a taste of what the NFPs are going to be, and that's on Friday. Now, Thursday, we have Bank of England interest rate decision. It looks like they're also scheduled for 0.75%. And the speech of the governor also half an hour after the announcement. Service PMI from the States, Australia monetary policy statement, and we have NFPs from US and employment data from Canada. Sometimes, or most of the time, they report at the same day, same time, pretty much. So that's what's waiting for us for this week. Now, again, I need to say that economic calendar is a great tool. Some believe in it, some don't, some use it, some don't. But I always say it to you, and I'll say it again, it's good to be aware of certain things happening, especially big things like NFPs on announcement on interest rate or anything else. But you have to choose your own things that really relates to your trading, to your geographical way of trading, or whatever markets you're trading. You can choose it. There are a lot of sources. You have it on our web trader and the app. You can use outside sources. Whatever you do. Now, what I do here, I just bring. Even now, it's really, I had a hard time fitting in one page. I just take the high impact events. There are more of them. There are mid impact, low impact, so on. You can filter them. And again, just the other way of being organized and knowing what's waiting for us for this week. And it's important. I personally prepare myself in the beginning of the week. And of course, I'm doing this webinar, so it helps me not to do it twice. And you see what works for you, what applies to your trading. So that's as far as economic calendar. Now, before we go to the chart, a few things. Of course, the new prime minister in the UK, and the pound reacted positively. Of course, similar to dollar, we're getting closer to the interest rate decision. That could be the reason as well. Okay. Let's move to the charts, and we'll start with China. As I mentioned at first, take a look. Monthly chart, 1, 2, 3, 4 months straight, and I don't remember if I mentioned that. I mentioned my other reviews. We just broke through this low of March. This is pre-pandemic or beginning of pandemic drop. The low here was 11,492.5. We closed at 11,400 even. Wow, interesting. Even number closure. Okay, we closed at the lows. Now what's next? Again, as the analysts that I mentioned to you, they're not very optimistic and positive about the future of Chinese economy. So I don't know what else to say. We'll be watching possible continuation. And like I always say, when the support is being broken, the few scenarios, we can just go straight down. We can come up to this level and confirm it, a switch from support to resistance, and then continue lower, or we can come right above it and start establishing support. So this would be considered a fake breakout or breakdown, whatever you want to call it. So we'll see what happens next. We have to see the next few days, a week of actions. As a result, we'll be more kind of informed, or more ideas we'll have as far as what's next for China. And of course, fundamental things are going to be coming out, and so on. So let's go to the U.S. indices, and for Friday, they had really strong day. So just to give you numbers, Dow Jones went up about 2.5 or 2.6%, S&P about 2.5%, Nasdaq up about 2.9%. And they led, Dow Jones added 828 points, and it was led by Apple. So let's start with Dow Jones. Is the strongest out of three, and I mentioned, I think, a few weeks in a row, and is actually 4 straight weeks to the upside on Dow Jones. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, very interesting here, we actually approaching the average on the 50 moving average on the weekly chart, and it's below the 200. So again, some call it crosses and so on. I don't want to go into this discussion, but we are approaching that 50 moving average over here, and it also one of the levels that we could see some kind of resistance. Let's see what happens here, and that's what I'm saying here. From here, this is a daily chart. We dropped back in end of August, so we could be approaching that level. As you could see, it's a very serious level. From here, we couldn't break it to the upside. Here, we couldn't break it to the upside, and then we dropped, like you see over here, and now we're climbing higher. Some stocks. Now, just to give you an idea, and it's also important if you trade indices, it's good that you know what stocks are there. And just to give you an idea, on Friday, Apple was the leader, as I mentioned to you, it reported positively, unlike others, quote unquote losers. That includes Facebook and others. So Apple actually on Friday closed up 7.5%. And there are a few other stocks that did. When we get to stocks, I'm going to mention to you, very interesting. So Dow Jones, the leader, 4 straight weeks to the upside. We're approaching the resistance there. Let's see what's next. Nasdaq, of course, doesn't look close as good as Dow Jones, but still Friday was a big day. Also, same reason because of the Apple. And looks like we're trying to close above this key 11,500 on Nasdaq. You see it? That's what I share with you when support becomes resistance. It was a support over here, then it became a resistance, then we just climbed back up, then dropped again, and then we had the hard time. Take a look that it was a huge, strong, concrete ceiling that the Nasdaq couldn't break for a few days, and then it dropped, and then Friday on the back of the Apple earnings, it just climbed up. And the same thing, we're going to be seeing possible fighting around this level between the bears and the bulls. And let's see if we're holding this 11.5, and if we do, we might continue higher. And it's very simple. What we want to see, closing or getting higher the previous high from which we sold, and that was around 11,709. So 11,700. We'll see how, if it gets there, how it's going to act. And of course, just to remind, and I'll probably be mentioning it a few times, a lot of it depends what Feds are going to be doing next. And again, to remind all of us that interest rate increase mostly, or not mostly, heavily affecting the high-tech stocks, because they're borrowing the money, they're involved with borrowing the money and everything else. Interest rate is really hurting them. And of course, stocks, tech stocks selling abroad, they've been main reason why they've been reporting lower earnings, because the high dollar shrinks the profits. Okay, because it's all American companies. They pay in dollars, they spend in dollars, and when they sell it abroad, when the dollar is strong, the earnings are less than if the opposite was happening, the dollar was weak. And this is simple things, and I just mentioned it to you in a simple way so you could understand it. So again, Nasdaq, we'll see what happens. S&Ps is also reaching a very, very serious strategic level, and that's about 39.15. And this high here was 39.31, and we're hitting the 100 moving average. This is on daily chart. So again, another test here. Will we face a strong resistance? Will we go straight through it and then build support? We'll see this week. And of course, fundamentally, the Fed's decision, I said to you, I'm going to mention it a few times, the Fed decision is going to play a huge role in that, not decision, but the planning for the future. Because decision, it looks like it's already priced in and it's obvious 0.75, just to repeat it. Okay, so that's the US indices. Germany, DAX, has been strong, of course, on sympathy with US, and of course, it's been climbing higher here. Let's see on the weekly chart, also fourth week, similar to Dow Jones. It's climbing, and we are also approaching certain levels of resistance. And that's around 13,400, 13 and a half. This area over here, we could be reaching there, and then we'll see what happens next. It's been very strong together with all the indices. UK is having a hard time recovering here. It still had some nice move Friday. It was actually in red when US market had a super strong move to the upside. That's a little bit strange. I'm not sure if this chart is correct, so I'll take it back. The last day I'm showing here, that's 1024. So let's just disregard it. I think the chart is not correct here, so we'll just skip the UK. But in general, there's a lot of restructuring going there, the Prime Minister and everything else. We'll see what's happening here. And I apologize for this technicalities here. The chart is not really showing full data. Now, China, we spoke about. The French index also climbing to a possible level of resistance, which is also at the similar level or next to level of the 200 moving average on the daily chart, around 63.45, 63.50. We are very close to it. We'll be watching that for those that are trading. French index. Nikkei also strong, and as we mentioned, we had, this week we have some announcements from Japan on monetary policy. Let's see what happens there. Also, a very strong Friday, and on weekly we have 2 straight weeks to the upside, and we are approaching a level of resistance from which was sold recently. We're around that level now, so we'll be watching that. Nifty 50, very interesting character. I like it. Please don't get me wrong, I'm not making fun of Indian market, but it's been the strongest. Okay, take a look. Looks like we have a triple top here. We couldn't break back in mid-August. We couldn't break in September. Few attempts, 1, 2, 3, 4 days. We couldn't break through that level, and we back to that level again around 18,000. Let's see what the high was here. 18,024, and we closed at 18,010, about 12 points away from this level again. Very interesting, very strong index, and I'm sure some of you are trading it, and let's see what this week shows. Again, of course, it's sensitive, like all the indices are sensitive what's happening to US indices. And again, I'm mentioning it, the Fed's decision this week and the planning for the next monetary actions will determine whether we're going higher or lower this week. And that's very, very crucial. So that's as far as indices. Okay, now let's talk about a few stocks. And just to give you an idea, this week we have another, according to Barron's, we have another 160 stocks of S&Ps reporting. Okay, and I'm going to go through a few of them, but just to give you an idea, because on MT4 I don't have many stocks, and again I'm mentioning it for you, for those that are trading stocks. The MT5 platform has more extended list of stocks than MT4. So we have few companies this week. Major ones are Pfizer, Advanced Micro Devices, Airbnb, Uber Technologies, CVS Health, Moderna, PayPal, Starbucks, Warner Brothers, and others. So altogether, eBay as well. Altogether, about 160 S&P 500 companies reporting this week. So I prepared a few of them. I'm going to talk about them in a moment. Now, before that, let's take a look at Exxon and Chevron. Okay, they reported better than expected news. Excuse me. Just take a sip of water. So Exxon and Chevron. So Exxon, if you look at the chart, it's been just flying. This is a monthly chart. So this month we're just straight to the skies. Good earnings just pushed it higher. And Chevron is facing difficulties breaking through these levels. This was the high. Let's see, 182 and a quarter, 182.27. And the high here was 182.67. It went higher by 40 pips, but then it sold again. So just again, just to show you, I'm not advertising. I'm not saying that levels are 100% working, but there's relevance. Take a look. We were here back in June, and then we came right back almost 6 months later. And let's see what's next. We're holding on that. Now, from this week's stocks they're reporting, that's Pfizer. And take a look at Pfizer. We are into the earnings, and the stock is flying. I guess they're expecting good earnings. There are a few articles out there. I remember last week just seeing them. One was the prices for vaccination or vaccine are high, so I guess that adds more profit to the company. But on the negative side, I could be mistaken, but I think I saw an article that Pfizer is being sued by don't remember either Europe or a specific country by them being sued for not paying taxes or something, or hiding taxes. I could be wrong, but just something that I saw last week, I believe. So Pfizer, it could continue, and they're reporting before the market on the 1st. So I guess Monday, the 31st, will be a lot of actions on Pfizer, and we could be reaching this level of resistance here at around $48 approximately. Now, another stock that moved a lot on Friday, and that's also a member of Dow Jones, that's Intel. And if you remember, I mentioned Intel to you, and I said that I don't believe in this reversal in the market until I see some moves on Intel, as Intel is a key stock. It just got killed. Take a look with the shortage and everything else, and slow demand for PCs and so on. But take a look. We had a move, a very nice move on Intel, and we're trying to get out of the woods. after hitting, I think, the lows of around 24.75, we start going higher, and I think we're trying to break out of the next level of resistance around here, around 29.5. We closed at 29.03, and we're hitting the 50 moving average. So of course, a lot of investors are watching Intel. Intel is a serious stock, it's a blue chip, and we might continue this week. So this 29.5 will be tested. Should we break it and start closing above it, we might continue higher. If we're going to have a hard time, we might slide and retest the previous level to the downside. Now, another one that had a nice move, and I mentioned it to you as well, AT&T a few times, that it's been really selling lately, but take a look at this nice recovery, and it was also a quick recovery. And I mentioned, I think, to you last week that this move kind of erased 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 weeks were recovered in 1 week, and this week was the one that we just finished, was another nice move to the upside. So it does look like some traders and investors finding value or potential value in this stock. Now take a look also when the key levels here. We tried, take a look, this was a support, 1865. Here we start facing resistance, so there was a sign we couldn't break it. So there was a possibility of moving lower, and we did after 1867 high over here, and we are about quarter of a dollar short of that level. So this level around 1860, 1870, it might be retested this coming week. So we'll be watching that. And the same idea, few scenarios, we can just go straight to it and go higher. We might have a hard time, which is probably the scenario that might happen. We'll fight over this level, and then if we start closing above it, then we'll prepare for the continuation to the upside. And if we're having a hard time and failing to break through it, we might go lower and retest lower levels again. And of course, a lot of it will be decided by general what's happening on the market. So that's AT&T. Now, also every week I try to show you Teva. After this drop, we're on the way also to maybe retest the previous highs. And I think we spoke last week about it, that this $8 level it was holding for potential continuation, and it was a nice move, a 10% move maybe or more. And we are facing the resistance here, similar idea. Let's see if we go through it, and if we do, we might go retest 940, 950 area and so on. And if not, we'll just go to the bottom of this channel, retest 8 again. We'll be seeing what's happening there. Okay. Now, Netflix. I've been talking about Netflix for a while. It did report great things, right, or better things. And if you remember, I mentioned to you that we might be going higher to close the gap. And we did touch, I think, the highs of 305.30. We're still about $25 from closing the gap. Let's see what happens. We're above all the moving averages. It looks very nice. Some analysts are predicting good things for the stock. So let's see what's next. Again, it will also depend what's happening in general on the market. Now, Tesla. Tesla has been sitting here after the recent drops. We dropped, I think, below 200. The number that I mentioned to you, if you remember, I said the analyst expecting for the stock to reach 200. It went even below 198.41. From that, we start climbing a little bit. We closed at 228.09. I was going to show you Twitter, but guess what? Twitter stock is delisted, and I just want to talk a few minutes about it. Not a lot. New CEO of Twitter is Mr. Elon Musk. So, of course, he fired the CEO and some other top managers. And start cutting forces. First, he said he's going to fire 75%. Now he said he will not do that, but still some people are getting fired. Restructures are coming and so on. And just logistically, the stock is delisted, so it's private now, and it's another company that Musk is the CEO of, another company in his collection of companies, let's put it that way. And every shareholder that had stock of Twitter received kind of a buyout. I don't know how it's physically done. Just send them a check, maybe $54.20 per share. So that was the deal. 44 billion brings the stock to 54.20. So there's no more public Twitter company. It's a private company owned by Mr. Elon Musk. Okay, so let's take a look at big guys. We mentioned Apple. Apple had a nice run. Actually, I watched it after the announcement. Initially, the stock went down, and then it went higher. Did it report good things and not great things on the phone? As we know, we mentioned a few times that demand is slowing and they cut the production, but the sales of Mac was great due to new models and new technology. They sold more than expected. Stock reacted nicely, and we about that psychological 150 level. Okay, and Friday was a very, very nice day for Apple, and of course it lifted all the U.S. indices with it, and of course other technology stocks. Now, I'm putting the 4-hour chart here. Google, disappointing earnings, trying to climb out. There's nothing much I can say about Amazon. If you remember weeks back, I said that Amazon, out of all the group, the FANG group, is really the stock that it looks like nobody wants it because it didn't really act in a nice positive way. So it got killed again. We came back to this around 100 level. Let's see what's next for Amazon. And the worst thing for it was just the cloud business together with Microsoft, also the same issue. The revenues in the cloud computing really, really low. Okay, so even before the earnings, in sympathy with Microsoft reported Amazon sold, and then when they really reported, the stock went lower. Now, one more stock I want to mention, it just caught my eye, is Walmart. Okay, it's with all the things happening, Walmart is slowly climbing to this previous level of resistance from spike from which we sold a little bit. So the high here was 142.60, and take a look. We went as high as 142.78, and then we closed 142.34 below this level. So the same thing. This could be another scenario of dropping from that level. Okay, it's an interesting level. That's the level from which we had this a strong move to the upside and then a drop after. So this 142.60 level is going to be very interesting. Let's see how we act around it. If we start building up above it, maybe we can go higher and maybe try to close this gap. And if the opposite, we're going to start sliding lower. Of course, like with any stocks, it depends also a lot of what the general market is doing. So I think that's it with stocks. Oh, one more thing, important thing. The Credit Suisse, the bank having a lot of issue. They reported. I was listening to the interview of CEO by Bloomberg, and they have all this plan restructuring, but they lost $4 billion or 4 billion euros. I don't remember exactly, but I think it's a lot of money either way. And being parity, I think it's the same thing. So what they do, they're planning on really gaining some of the money, and two things or a few things. They're planning on cutting the workforce by 20% gradually. And they also got a new partner. The Saudis bought about 10% of the company for $1.something billion. So they a big investor in the company, 10%. They own the company now. So let's see what happens. And maybe the market took it in a positive way because the US banks actually reacted to the upside on that news somehow. We have Citibank trying to move higher from here. JP Morgan had a nice move. We're hitting the 200 moving average. Bank of America, the same thing. And Goldman Sachs, very, very strong. But Goldman is, and a lot of them are reaching slowly to the level of resistance from which we'll see what's happening next. So the banks are in focus with Credit Suisse again. With those news, kind of mixed news, they really screwed up, but they have a plan. So let's see how that works out. So that's it with equities. You know what? Let's take a look at Uber. Uber is reporting, as I mentioned. So we keep on hitting this support at around 26.5. So it looks like that level is holding, and we keep on climbing from that attempt to break to the below that level. So maybe they will report something good. It's hard to say. I guess we'll be waiting for that earning announcement from the company. Okay, let's move to Forex, and we'll start with dollar index. Wow, I took a lot of time with equities today. I apologize. So we'll make it a little bit longer today. Dollar index, it went briefly below 10. We were as low as 109.40, I believe, 109.35, and then we back above 110. And the 10-year yields that I mentioned to you all the time, it's holding around 4%, and it makes sense because the Feds are deciding on that interest rate this week. So the dollar, based on these technicals, after this failed attempt to break this previous support, we're right back above it. We actually might see continuation to the upside. Again, the 0.75 increase is already priced in. That's obvious, but it depends what the press conference and how it's going to address the questions and so on. Let's see if dollar will have another leg to the upside, and we'll just take a look briefly at the majors. Euro had a hard time holding the parity. British pound is holding this support around 115 nicely. I guess with the new prime minister and some hopes of Bank of England taking some positive actions for the pound. And dollar yen is on my focus. Take a look. This was intervention on September 22nd, and October 21st we had another intervention here, and it looks like we're holding here. I mean, we held here as well, but then we moved higher. So it also depends a lot on what they say. Maybe they will surprise us finally taking some actions, as we have some announcement about monetary policy this week that I mentioned on economic calendar. And of course, we have the interest rate decision from the States. So let's see if this last action really worked or it was temporary like this one as well. So dollar yen is on the radar big time. We'll see what happens this week. Just to show you this move, it's extended move. Maybe some correction is due. Again, we could easily go higher. Anything could happen. And a lot of analysts are expecting some actions from the Bank of Japan in increasing the interest rates. They haven't done, I think the only major central bank that hasn't done anything yet to increase the interest rate. So as far as Forex. Now I have some interesting things for you in commodities. We'll just run through them. So oil. Oil is within our channel, like we mentioned. It might go and retest the 89.90 area, and it did. We didn't break through it, so we're closer to the top of this channel. Last week inventories were not so positive. They were higher than expected, I think, for oil. And of course, fundamentals with Russia. We have Saudis cutting the production, so that's on the supply part. And on the demand part, China shrinking, economy shrinking, global economy shrinking. So it's kind of a, if you just draw the line from this last move, it's been really choppy. Take a look. This was solid move before all this choppiness, if you want to call that name. So the low here was 87.5, 87.56, and up and downs were, as you could see, was still around the same level, 87.5. So let's see what happens. Natural gas, it's having weakness. It tried to climb here, but I went through a few things, and the major negative thing for natural gas is the warm weather in Europe. Usually around this year, it's already cold. It's warm. I mean, it's good for Europe. They were choking a little bit there with energy. Russia being, cutting supplies and everything else, which is a separate subject, war related. I'm not going to go into it. And so that warm weather is really affecting, pushing down on natural gas prices. Let's see what's next. So we're clearly now in this channel in a way between 5.5 and $6.5 range. So you could see here we held support around 6.5, and here we held support around 5.5. We had the brief dive below, but then we climbed right back on the new contract. So that's as far as natural gas. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of our webinar that Russia put on hold the deal with shipping wheat and corn and others. So let's take a look at wheat. Take a look. It dropped here, but it was really holding it for a few days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days, almost 2 weeks. It's been sitting on the same level around 830. And that's the level that I mentioned to you, if you remember. 830 was sitting there. Maybe this move of Russia will create a little bit of a stress and fear of shortage of the grains. And that this week, when the market of wheat opens, we might see actually a spike to the upside. I mean, take a look what happened here. This was when the war started, right? This is February. And then we moved crazily to 1361 and a quarter. So this could be another actually attempt to do that, because it was a lot of accumulation here in this channel. And then we went higher and we came back, but we didn't go any lower than this previous support around 830. So let's see what happens. That's going to be a very interesting week for wheat. Corn, similar idea. Take a look. After this move, we've been really consolidating around these levels. So could be another one moving high over here. Now, three more commodities I want to bring to your attention. Cotton. I think I talked about it last week or the week before. It's been selling heavily, and it's all, in my opinion, it's China related. I didn't find any fundamental things, but we came to 72.09, and take a look. We had this is weekly chart. We had 3 weeks of holding this level. 71.82, 71.04, and 71.32. We are currently $1 away from those, around $1 away from these levels. We're really reaching these levels over here. So it could be, again, it's not my wishful thinking, it's just observation. It could be that we might find some kind of support eventually, because it's been going on from around 120 levels, 122. We've been really going down on that. I guess it's fundamentally, it's the weather, whatever it is, but I think it's mostly China. It just makes sense because China is the biggest producer of clothing and everything else. And a lot of it, cotton is being used, of course, including jeans or anything else. It's mostly cotton, right? So again, just my observation, my opinion. Let's see if we're really holding somewhere around this 72, 71, and we might see a reversal. Now, after this drop, if we do see a reversal, if it happens, it could be a very strong reversal, and traders like those reversals because they could be quick and massive as well. Again, I'm not encouraging you to do that. As you know, this is just educational. You make your own decisions. And let's see actually what corn is doing now. Two bonuses. Coffee first. Of course, we all I'm trying to be funny a little bit, so bear with me. Coffee is approaching also his support here. We had a dive below it last week, and this level right here is 172.40, and then we closed at 171.85. So let's see if we're holding this level. Also, we had a massive sell-off, 4-week sell-off on coffee. Now, I said I'm going to be funny, so I will be funny. Do you take sugar with your coffee? And here comes sugar. Also, very, very interesting area over here. Take a look. This line is over here. A lot of actions here, a lot of actions here, and we are back at level of support around 17.5. Now, sugar, I really don't know what's happening fundamentally. I suggest that you check it out if you do trade, because commodities, it's a lot to do with fundamentals. But if you just look at the chart, it could be that sugar, few scenarios, you might find a support here and it will bounce back, or if it finally could break this level around 17.5 and break to the downside. As you can see, we had a strong resistance around 50-week moving average, which just broke through 100-week moving average. We're sitting on this very strong strategic level. If it holds and remains support, we might see it bounce to the upside. And if we see this week or next week or whenever a nice build up as proving that we switching into resistance, into a sell zone, we might see continuation on sugar. And it could be anything. It could be 16.30. This was the level of previous support around here. Or we might go and all the way eventually to the 200-week moving average, or even lower. We can go and retest a strong level from which we made a higher high. That's around 14.5, 14.70. Okay, so that's the sugar. And a quick look at cryptos, but first Ethereum. Maybe Kramer was right. Remember I mentioned to you last week that he said, let me find that quote if I still have it. I can't tell you not to own crypto. I own Ethereum. And that's what CNBC's Jim Cramer said. And we spoke about it last week. So since that saying, Ethereum had a very nice move. Okay. And it could be that we will face a little bit of resistance here. We might go and test the 200 moving average on the daily chart, or if this resistance holds, we might go and retest the support again. And Bitcoin, nice, we broke out of it, out of 20 resistance that we mentioned, and then we're building a nice support, and that's what I mentioned to you. If we do break about 20,000 and start really closing above it, not going back below, that we might be open for the next retest of around 22.5. And of course, we could come close below again and go down, but it looks like we are building a support and we might see continuation to the upside. And then depends, of course, what dollar is doing and what the market is doing. To do that, you'll need to turn off airplane. What the market is doing in general, okay? And I guess that's it, guys. Sorry, I was a little bit longer. I hope it was useful and practical. And I wish everyone a great weekend, whatever's left, and get ready for the upcoming week. It's a very important week. You have a Fed decision. You have a FOMC number, not FOMC, the NFP numbers. We have interest rate decision from UK. A lot of numbers are coming out and a lot of decisions. And the main thing is the press conference of Mr. Powell. So we'll have an idea what's next as far as the actions of the Fed. Take care, all the best. See you next week.